Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasudanandana Braja Janarandana Yasudanandana Braja Janarandana Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasudanandana Braja Janarandana Yasudanandana Braja Janarandana Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Radhesham Jaya, Radhesham Jaya, Radhesham. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Or Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you everybody for coming this evening, and thank you for asking me to speak on the great Bhagavad-gītā as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We are speaking tonight on the 5th chapter, text 17. Tad-buddhayas, tad-ātmānas, tan-niṣṭhās, tat-parāyaṇāḥ, gacchanty apunar-āvṛttiṁ, jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣāḥ, tad-buddhayas, tad-ātmānas, tan-niṣṭhās, tat-parāyaṇāḥ, gacchanty apunar-āvṛttiṁ, jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣāḥ, tad-buddhayas, tad-ātmānas, tan-niṣṭhās, tat-parāyaṇāḥ, gacchanty apunar-āvṛttiṁ, jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣāḥ. Vaishnavas? tad-buddhayas, Vaishnavas? tan-niṣṭhās, tat-parāyaṇāḥ, gacchanty apunar-āvṛttiṁ, jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣāḥ, tad-buddhayas, those whose intelligence is always in the Supreme. Tat-ātmānaḥ, those whose minds are always in the Supreme. tat-niṣṭhāās, those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme, tat-parāyaṇāḥ, who have completely taken shelter of him, gacchanty, go, apunar-āvṛttiṁ, to liberation, jñāna, by knowledge, nirdhūta, cleansed, kalmaṣāḥ, misgivings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Please repeat. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Purport. The Supreme Transcendental Truth is Lord Kṛṣṇa. The whole Bhagavad-gītā centers around the declaration that Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Para-tattva means the Supreme Reality, who is understood by the knowers of the Supreme as Brahman, Paramātmā and Bhagavān. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, mattaḥ parataraṁ nānyat, kiñcid asti dhanañ-jaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Kṛṣṇa, Brahmano hi patistatam. Therefore, in all ways, Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Reality, one whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Kṛṣṇa, or in other words, one who is fully in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Kṛṣṇa conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is dualities, simultaneous identity and individuality in Kṛṣṇa, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Om Ganatimirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Jaksun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanyam Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadanmayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Bhakanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvarutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishika Vidam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorhange Radhe Vindavanishvare Vishavanu Sude Deve Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Taruvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Paditanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So Krishna is saying in this particular section is that the conclusion of all knowledge is the complete cleansing of the heart and the mind of all its misgivings. Theoretical knowledge, mundane knowledge, is without giving us any sense of purity of heart, is actually described as a heavy weight on the brain. It's jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣāḥ. It creates obstacles in our devotional service. And it creates a big false ego. Someone thinks they're so intelligent. I have so much knowledge. There's a devotee named, and you probably know him, he's a wonderful devotee, Madhavananda. And he was telling me about how he heard about this fellow who knows the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses by heart, and he was anxious to meet him. But when he met him, he discovered the fellow smoked cigarettes. So even though he could memorize all these verses, he had no realization. So it could be a great obstacle, and we know that the Sankirtan devotees know that from trying to preach on college campuses. It's the professors, the doctors, that are the last people who will stop for you to hear about the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad-gītā. So it can be a great obstacle. But when we look at our acharyas have a great wealth of information, a great amount of philosophical knowledge. But the difference is that all is aimed at the point of becoming Jiva Sarupa Hoya Nitya Krishna Das, eternal serviture of Krishna. It's all about that. And in the Bhagavad-gītā, Bahunam Janmana Ante Yanavan Man Papadyante Vasudeva Savamiti Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. And this is after many, many births. And yes, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. And then we talk about, and we're studying this Bhagavad-gītā this evening, and this Bhagavad-gītā is so well known. So many different professors, so many different theologians, so many different clergy people talk about the wonderful Bhagavad-gītā as such a great source of spiritual knowledge. But what does Krishna direct everyone in the Bhagavad-gītā to? Sarvadharmam parijaya mamekam saranam praja. Go ahead, chant. Aham tvam sarva prabhevyo majyasyami nasuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. What does it mean to surrender? Surrender is complete humility, understanding who we really are and how completely helpless we are without Krishna. That Krishna is the one supreme absolute truth that supports all living entities, and that we are all completely dependent upon him. We couldn't see if he didn't give us light. We couldn't hear if he didn't give us ears. We couldn't breathe if he didn't give us air. We're not so smart if he doesn't give us a brain. So we have to admit our complete dependence on Krishna. and give up the false ego. That's the process of giving up the false ego, is understanding we don't really have any abilities of our own, any abilities that we seem to have or acquired, only coming from the mercy of Krishna. So when we understand how completely dependent we are on Krishna, then our attachment to our nartas, we give them up. They become insignificant and just distractions. And we become the humble servant. Krishna becomes the center of our lives. Of course, Krishna is so anxious to have all the living entities back to Godhead. And he comes in so many ways, so many different processes. He comes as a son of God, he comes as prophets, he comes as all kinds of liberators. But in this age of Kali, the most beautiful and most erudite and the most significant incarnation is Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, he taught by his example, which was so powerful. And in Krishnadas Kaviraj Chaitanya Charitamrita, we understand that Lord Chaitanya shows his mercy in 3 different ways. The first way is the shakshad. That's the directly benefiting the devotees with mercy. And we saw that wherever he went, and he chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wherever he went, everyone joined in the chanting. He induced them. And they all became dedicated to the holy name. And he also preached. And his way of preaching was very significant. It was very exemplary for us. Even Srila Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says the aim of preachers in the movement is not to defeat everyone with philosophy and argument, but to induce people to chant Hare Krishna, become purified, engage in devotional service. This is our process. So we induce everyone we meet to chant Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya says that he's the gardener and that his body is the tree. And this tree is covered with fruits. The fruits are love of God. His fruits are what everyone is hankering for. And that he needs help because there's so many. He needs help in distributing these fruits. And so he's asking all of us to join in helping distribute this great compassion, this really, real welfare work for humanity at large. And it doesn't matter if someone's a man or a woman, or they're high class, low class, Hindi, American, Russian. It doesn't matter. It's just, it can be distributed to everyone. It should be distributed freely. When Lord Chaitanya spoke philosophy, he was so erudite, so beautiful. But he didn't beat up anybody with the philosophy, even though we could. We have the greatest philosophy. You can't defeat the devotees. But our position is not that we take a very strong, argumentative position. And he showed a wonderful example when he went to Varanasi. Because there in Varanasi, some of the most hard-hearted hearts, atheist, Parkasananda Saraswati, with his hundreds of thousands of followers who were all perfect sannyasis. They were very strict, they were very celibate, they were very knowledgeable about Vedanta and very puffed up. They had no concept of humility or devotion. And the Vaishnavas would not go near them. Would you want to go near them? Kind of reminds me about when we go to yoga centers in the West to preach. They're happy enough when we come in to do kirtan, but when we want to start talking about the philosophy, they become very uncomfortable. So they don't want to hear they're not the body. But how do you preach to someone like that? Well, Lord Chaitanya gave us a wonderful example. He was invited to their assembly. And there, when you walked into the assembly, there was a place to wash feet. And Lord Chaitanya washed his feet, and he sat down there right next to the door in the foot washing place. Well, Parkasananda Swami, who was sitting up on his platform with his followers, saw this. Now, he was attracted to Lord Chaitanya because Lord Chaitanya was very effulgent, and he's attracted to the Brahmachariti. But he had never seen humility like this, and it touched his heart, kind of melted his heart a little. And so he implored Lord Chaitanya to come up. Lord Chaitanya shook his head. No, I'm fallen. I'll sit here. This is a good place for me. So finally, Parkasananda was so moved, he got up and he went down and he took Lord Chaitanya by the hand and he brought him up to sit on the platform with the other sannyasis. And Prabhupada explains from this service, a little devotional service, still, it had an effect on his heart. Devotional service so powerful. It gives us the ability to understand spiritual knowledge. So that's why we engage people so much and in so many ways. Just give a rupee. At least they've begun the path of devotional service. So when he was sitting there and they said, well, would you like to discuss some Vedanta? And he says, oh, I am a great fool. I can't discuss Vedanta. My Guru Maharaj told me I'm such a great fool. I should just chant Hare Krishna and purify my heart, and that is the best path for me. But as they discussed this, and it went on, Lord Chaitanya defeated them all, and they began to realize that he was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they were actually the fools. This is the power of proper preaching, is to first touch the heart. Touch the heart. And then a person becomes more and more inclined towards devotional service. One of my students today told me about at their temple, they were communicating with this family from a Catholic church. And they wouldn't even come to the Sunday feast because they felt this was a little crossing their religion's lines. But he just kept in contact with them. He gave them prasadam, he was always kind to them, he always spoke to them. And then eventually, now, they have come to the point where they're regularly coming to the temple. They're engaging in hearing classes. So it's so powerful by having a gentle touch with people. Now the next stage, or the next process by which Lord Chaitanya bestows his mercy on the devotees is called Abhibhava. And Krishna manifests through the devotees' love. And we know that Mother Sachi is Mother Yasoda, and she loves Krishna in any form, in any way, anywhere, anyhow. And so Mother Sachi, Lord Chaitanya would often do things to demonstrate her love for him and how great that is. And one time, he did this by coming out and telling Mother Sachi, I want to go to the Ganges and worship the Ganges, so I need some sandalwood paste, I need some scented oil, and I want a nice garland. So Mother Yasoda gathered up the sandalwood pulp. She brought that. She brought the scented oil. She said, I have to go get a nice garland. I don't have one. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Kṛṣṇa, when he gets angry, it's not ordinary. It's very scary. Because, you know, he's in Lord Nrsimhadev. Not much difference. Anyway, so he got so angry. he just took a stick and he went inside. And, you know, everything's kept in clay pots back then. He broke all the pots. He broke the dal pot. He broke the ghee pot. He broke the rice pots, the spices. He banged on the windows. He banged on the doors. And then he went outside and he banged on a tree. He banged on the ground. And then he threw his stick down and he laid down and went to sleep. And Mother Sachi, she went in, she cleaned everything. She got the garland. And when Lord Chaitanya woke up, she said, here's your garland. I'm sorry it wasn't here earlier. Here's your sandalwood paste, and here's your scented oil. You can go and worship the Ganges now. And so he went, and when he came back, she said to him, she said, you know, Nimai, when you're happy, I'm happy. But we're poor brahmanas, and you broke all our pots containing all our foods, so I don't know how we're going to eat for the next couple of days. And Krishna said, or Lord Chaitanya said, don't worry, Krishna provides. And he went in and did his studying, and the next day he went off to school, and he came home. And he handed these 2 big bricks of gold to Mother Sachi. And he said, see, Krishna provided. And Mother Sachi didn't say anything, and Nimai went in and did his study. When he was 24 and he took sannyas, and he left her there in Navadvip, and he went to Puri, she was very broken-hearted. But she would cook. He left a beautiful deity. You've seen that deity of Lord Chaitanya there in Navadvip. And she would cook wonderful foodstuffs. That was her favorite thing, was to cook for Lord Chaitanya. And she would cook all the things he liked, she would offer to the deity. And then she went in to get the preparation, and the plates were completely clean. And she thought, oh, am I going mad in my old age? I didn't put the food on the plate. She took the plates out. She again filled them, and she took the plates back for the offering. And again, everything was gone. And she thought, I must be going mad in my old age. But Lord Chaitanya, he sent a messenger. And the messenger, he told her, he says, Lord Chaitanya is coming every day and eating what you're cooking for him. In fact, he wanted me to tell you how much he liked the shak you made. And the sweet rice was perfectly sweetened. And those sweet balls, those sandesh, are his favorite. So she went on like that, knowing that Lord Chaitanya was coming every day and eating what she was cooking for him because of her love for him. Now the third method is avesh. And this is where Krishna appears to give mercy by empowering his devotees. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, is a very good example of this, Shaktavadesh Avatar. And even after that journey on the gruesome journey on the Jaladuta, where he had 2 heart attacks. And then he went to the Boston Harbor, and the captain invited him to get off the boat and go out and see the city, his first glimpse of America. And what he saw that people everywhere were covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. And their focus was illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. And that was what they were thinking about having constantly. And so he went back to the boat, and he wrote this most beautiful poem, begging Krishna to have this mercy on him, to make him a pure vessel, so that he could preach nicely. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. So surrendered. But I guess you have some business here, otherwise why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva Krishna. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service, O Lord? I am simply praying for your mercy so that I'll be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have a strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated Bhaktivedanta, and now if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated the 18th of September, 1965. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And another pastime, since we're in Chaitanya Leela, we're speaking about Chaitanya Leela, is that Lord Chaitanya had this devotee by the name of Nakula Brahmachari. And he lived in Bengal. You know, Lord Chaitanya was in Puri. But it turned that Nakula Brahmachari, it was said that whenever he preached, he had all the symptoms and activities of Lord Chaitanya, and it was as if Lord Chaitanya was completely preaching. It was like he was ghostly haunted. You know, like when a ghost takes over a body, the soul, it just becomes a passenger. It doesn't have any control at all. The ghost takes over and talks, and anyway. But it was as if Lord Chaitanya had taken over his body. And when he was preaching, he attracted cores and cores of people. And Shivananda Sain had heard about this. And he was a little skeptical. How could this be? I can't imagine that Lord Chaitanya could talk through somebody who's so far away. So he decided to go hear Nakula Brahmachari speak. And he went there, and it was a huge crowd of people. So he just was in the crowd very, very unprecociously, very quietly. And Nakula Brahmachari asked his servant, "Go find Shivananda Sain, he's here." And Shivananda Sain was thinking, you know, I'll know this is Lord Chaitanya because Lord Chaitanya gave me a special mantra, a Gaura Gopal mantra. And if this Uddhava, he knows about this mantra, then, because nobody else knows about it, then I'll know that this is true. Lord Chaitanya is speaking through him. And so his servant found Shivananda Sain and brought him to Uddhava. And Uddhava said to him, he says, your mantra is Gaura Gopal, now give up your doubts. And so he paid his dandavats and gave up his doubts. So the process is, we're not so elevated that we can be Shaktavadesh avatars, but we can definitely cleanse our hearts so that we can be pure vessels for the Lord and suitable for preaching and spreading this Krishna consciousness and giving the fruits of love that Lord Chaitanya needs help in distributing. There's so many that need to be distributed. And by this welfare work, everyone will achieve the highest goal of human life. And they'll be able to stop the repetition of the miserable birth, disease, old age, and death. So we'll pray for the mercy of Krishna, that he lightens our hearts and purifies them so that we can truly serve him very nicely, serve our gurus very nicely. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? No. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.